P5-8 is going to come with the same recommendation that you attempt and take this as far as you can without watching the rest of this video. That the geometry and the tools that we've done and the sequence, the repetitiveness, any issues that you ran into in the last one, hopefully they've been resolved. So I'm going to go ahead with building 5-8. All right, so my C bracket is still open, or no, I opened the bracket. So how can I tell? At the top of the feature tree in the part, it says bracket and then C bracket. It does not say default. If there were no configurations, and it kind of depends on who the designer or whoever built the part, how they like to manage the geometry. And if it's something that was shared, I might even change the name of the default, which can happen. I could say my C bracket, all caps, and the description could stay default, and we do whatever. And then it really wouldn't matter, because that would change to whichever configuration it stayed in. And I do want to save that so that it doesn't bark at me later. So when I go into the assembly, if I'm not sure that I'm in a configuration, I can always jump into the configuration, and all I see is the default, then great, there's no configurations. But if things are acting a little strange, or you see all of these features suppressed, I would not go in and start unsuppressing things and changing things without taking a moment to just verify that the configuration. So that's really the point. If you're building this and you decide to build individual components and you don't want to mess with the configurations, that is okay. If you encounter a file, if you've received a file from a customer, from a vendor, and you see these configurations, just understand that there is stuff going on in the background that will make your life more difficult if you mess with it. So on that end, it comes with that warning, that caution that proceed. Either proceed at your own risk or proceed it with care. So my bracket is open. I am going to use the configured plate, and I will go to the 120 by 120. The rotation, we did the float last time, so I'm just going to rotate that in X and place it, and then it will be right there. We know that we can insert the component for the bracket, and it is not. So if I click out of that, click back in the open documents, and the my C bracket was the last one that was open, and actually it was my L bracket. So I can go to the L bracket, and when we drag that out, make sure that that's highlighted. There we go. Now the orientation is off, so I want to rotate about Y, and then we can place it. Now if I drag that in from the component tree, it should be in the same orientation, but I want to revisit the file explorer over here. So the plate is, again, open the assembly, so it's kind of got a wireframe look to it, and the bracket is solid, so it is actually an open file. All right, and then that one goes in. It asks me which one I want. I go ahead and hit OK, and then I can rotate. So here's where we get to something a little more dynamic. If I make those parallel, the check is that these will rotate in sequence if we need them to. So I'm going to hold down the control button, left click on the plate, and drag it in, and when I let go, well, let's just do it this way. My tendency is to always go to coincident, but just keep in mind that if I pick the select, and pick the concentric, it's going to do the same type of thing. Now, I don't want to do the rotation. The mate alignment's fine. That all looks okay. If I can't see it, or in this case, since it is rotating, then I will move it a little bit so that it goes concentric. All right, so what this did not pick up, and if I left click and drag, it will move to position, and I can tell that whichever one I need to make coincident. All right, so the alignment, even though these were parallel, because this kind of takes that place, the alignment of the holes can only put this in one position, then that's going to do kind of the same thing. So even though if I had made, and probably would be part of my process, if I had made those coincident or parallel, all it would have done was uh, remove the rotation until I added that plate anyway. So again, there's combinations that come in just like in the sketches that they may not help as long as it does not hurt. All right, so the bracket, and we'll place, and then this is going to be a Z bracket. So I need to find that, change it to a Z bracket, and go ahead and hit OK. And then this will be able to rotate. Looking at the File Explorer once again, if I bring in the bracket, and my video card is not catching up, no? Oh, it's just waiting for it. Oh, and then this is that fun one that apparently I had both of those selected, or this happens quite a bit to me, but in this case it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm going to go ahead with the 30 by 120, and it threw them all in there, so we'll go with it. And I'm going to go concentric. Let's do the edge. I want to see what the edge. I mean, I have a lot of habits that need to be challenged every once in a while. So if I go edge to edge and make that concentric, did it actually do anything different? Well, it did not make it coincident. So unlike the mate reference where I get the coincident and the concentric, now these are going to be able to move, and sometimes they move strange. But because these are pegs, and even if these are pressed in and they're a hard press, they're gonna have a degree of freedom to them. There's not not really a set item here. So until I get to the point where I make, well, let's make this parallel first. So if I make those two parallel, then when this rotates, they will move in sequence. But as we just saw, what my expectation versus reality, they wouldn't necessarily have to move. That because of the alignment, if this one starts moving first and this one had a little more compression to it or a little more press on it, it might not move in the same way. So go ahead and make those parallel. That gives me my geometry. I'm going to go ahead and save this for P5-8 and save. All right, so we're ready to start bringing in the pegs. So insert components. We'll browse, grab the peg. These are all going to be 10 by 20s. And I'm going to go right down the line, tab, select, and order is not that big of a deal. Select, control, select, let go. And I keep saying select, control, select, but it is Yeah, I think it's hold down the control button, select. So it might be control. It's one of those. All right, so we get those guys in there. All right, so I didn't like what the order I picked on that one, so we'll keep going. You highlight it first. No, it's just a matter of going through the sequence. So there is my assembly. We'll go ahead and save. If I want the rotation, so I don't see the minus sign, in this case I'll go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom because I know there's what, 8 of those. Did I miss one or did it? No, I missed one. Oh, that was the one that might have barked at me. All right, so that also helps that I can tell. Now, if there were 8 in the sequence because I did not delete any, when then we're going 1 through 7 in sequence, that also tells me that I missed one. And I missed it again. All right, let go of the left mouse button first, then let go of the control button. I think I got that in there, so let's go ahead and rebuild. And what happened to my lock rotation? So that one and that one, and that one. So not quite sure what happened there, so let's start trying to move some of these. And there are rare sequences that this might not go fully defined, even though if I expand that out, that all looks pretty good. There's something in the math or something in the mates that it doesn't want to cause those to go fully defined. So let's see what's going on with the plate. It didn't. Z bracket didn't. And that may be a function of that I did not add the original coincident. So that would be interesting. Let's go ahead and add a coincident there. And poof, everything went defined. All right, so in the sequence, even though this thing isn't going to move, that however it added up all of those mates, that one that I do kind of automatically without thinking about it, that I didn't do this time, that left a bunch of those underdefined, even though they're not going to move. All right, so that one becomes, do I want to mess with it and try to figure it out, or I know it's not doing anything too strange, so we'll just live with it. So add to new folder, and this will be my hardware. And it just kind of makes things a little cleaner. If I wanted to, I could bring the plates together. All right, doesn't really order, but as far as grouping the brackets and going through that sequence and we'll go ahead and rebuild and the save. So next one is going to be the exploded view. So let's bring all of these. And I have not tried the, oh, I got the other Z. And we'll drag that out. And that gives me a start point. A little closer. All right. And done, not okay. And then let's try, because we have the second plate, and notice that these are going to highlight. I'm getting the envelope box for the component, bracket 1, bracket 2. And I could expand that out and go after the pegs, but I just wanted to see if it was would pick out of the flyout, which it did fine. So if I bring those two out, and we go back to isometric, which does not look too bad. then realistically these would go up or down, and maybe a little bit more. All right, just a little more separation. Double check. All right, so I would say not great, but not terrible. So let's edit that last chain. And if I click on enough buttons, eventually I will figure out where I'm going. So expand out next to the configuration, expand out the exploded view, right click, edit the exploded step. And that was the last one. Let's go to that one. And it did not adjust that, so let's maybe make that one 80. And that was a little closer. Yeah, that doesn't help too much, but let's go ahead and see what visually. Yeah, we don't really see the one over here. Now, if I wanted to remove those, so let's edit the explode step. I could go back in and deselect, or at least I think I can. And we need the other peg and delete. And if I say done, those should jump back, and they stayed in position. So yeah, that's okay. As long as visually it makes some sense as to how this is going to go together, then I think we're done. So I will double click on it to collapse it, make sure it saves, and call that my assembly.